up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jada here, back with another video. And as promised, per my last video that I did of 90 Day Fiance, I believe that was Happily Ever After. I'll link that in the corner here if you're interested. But I, in that video, said that I was going to be talking about 90 Day Fiance Love in Paradise, their most recent season that they are now putting out episodes for. And I really have been finding these couples very interesting. I believe there's only 4 of them. This is now season 4 that they're in. So they're now on episode 9, and there has just been non-stop stuff to talk about. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna go couple by couple as I usually do. We're gonna start off with Kyle and Anika. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly. But Kyle is from LA and Anika originally is from Germany but now lives in Malta. So they met each other online through a sperm donor site, believe it or not, because Anika was actually interested in having another child. She already has one child. She has a son, but the dad isn't really in the picture. So Anika and Kyle, they end up getting to know each other. They're talking and they're really developing a little bit of a friendship and a little bit more of a friendship, and they really start to hit it off. Also, he's 32 and she's 39, so there is a pretty big age gap between them. So Kyle does work as an accountant but also has a hobby of donating sperm to single women and couples who are looking to have kids, and he gives them the option of him just giving the sperm or actually having sex to donate the sperm to them. But it doesn't sound like he necessarily gets paid for it. This really just sounds specifically like a hobby. I don't know if he gets paid through the website or whatnot, but I'm a little confused as to what exactly is going on here. Who would want the sex option, really? You know, it makes me wonder, because at that point it's a little strange to me, you know, just a little bit. So when Kyle comes to visit Anika in Malta, it's kind of when things get weird and really painfully awkward, if I'm going to be honest with you. So he tells her that there's a point system. When they go on their first date, their first time out and about, he tells her there's a point system and she has to work her way up to earn intimacy, basically. And I'm just like, okay, Kyle, that's very romantic of you. Thanks for letting her know. But the entire time he keeps asking for her consent. So, you know, that's cool. Does it ruin the mood a little bit sometimes? Probably. But it's probably the best way to know that there's no issues between you two and that she wants to do whatever it is that you're about to do. So Kyle also reveals that he really has no intention of even giving up sperm donation, which is kind of what Anika was hoping for. She was like, listen, if you're gonna be in a relationship with me, I don't know if we could continue with the whole sperm donation thing. At least you having sex with these women to donate sperm, like that's just not it for me. That's basically cheating in my mind. But he does also expose to her that he did sleep with some women before he got to Malta, and he did donate sperm, like obviously through sex. So it was like, really, my guy? Really? And he was pretending to not know certain details when she was asking him questions about it. And it was just like, Kyle, you know all the details. Like, what are we doing here? In Kyle's defense, just a little bit, because not too much, because it's Kyle. In his defense, just a little bit, I think that it wasn't really kind of put out there, maybe, and he didn't really understand that they were exclusive and that he shouldn't be having sex with these women because she sees it as cheating. I think maybe he did not understand that. But yeah, it's just, I guess it's a little bit of a gray area right now. When Anika finds this out, of course, naturally she's upset because, like I said already, she sees it as cheating. And then her friend ends up meeting Kyle as well, and he's still pretty weird, okay, even around the friend. But the friend thinks that he does make for a good partner for Anika, but I feel like you need another friend, sis. You need another friend besides this one to examine this guy, because I don't understand how everybody else except for you and your friend could see that this man is strange, you know, and you might not want to engage with this one. I just don't understand how everybody else could see that except for your friend. You know, it's just, baffling. Kyle and Anika one night decide to take their relationship to another level. Okay, they decide to sleep together, and that's when Kyle decides to have this monologue with the camera about that experience, how he does have a pretty big package. He keeps talking about his manhood, and then he also makes it a pretty big deal that I guess Anika, during this whole intimate moment together, that she was making noise and maybe a little too loud, and he thought that other people in the building were going to hear her. I was like, you did not need to share that detail. It was not necessary. It really wasn't. Just all of it was not necessary at all. So after this is when, obviously because they didn't use protection, we find out Anika, she decides to get an ovulation test to see if she was actually ovulating around this time, because obviously when you're ovulating, it's more likely that you would, you know, get pregnant. But the thing is, now she's just like, you know what, to make sure, I'm just gonna get a plan B. I'm just gonna ask Kyle to get one for me while he's heading over to my house to have dinner. And instead of just saying, yeah, okay, I'll get it, he's just like, you know, it's kind of weird that you're asking me to get that, because, you know, obviously, you know, my job is sperm donation. So usually I'm trying to get people pregnant. I'm not trying to prevent pregnancy. And I'm like, my guy, that doesn't matter. That's not relevant to the conversation. Like, she wants you to get the plan B, so get the plan B. So that was just baffling to me. I was like really confused. And then he still ends up not bringing her the plan B. So it really just kind of makes her, you know, it sets them back in terms of trust, because it's just like, what are you trying to do, Kyle? Like, is it your plan to actually get her pregnant when she doesn't even know if she wants to have a child with you? It's really bizarre. And also I find it weird that he keeps track of how many kids he now has with these donations that he gives, and I'm just like, yeah, you're weird. You're really, really weird. I'm sorry. She doesn't want to, obviously, like I said, have a baby right now. She makes that clear. I just think that they're in a very interesting situation right now, because it's just like, Kyle, if I say I want the plan B, get me the dang plan B, sir. So I don't know what that was about. That was strange. Let's move on to Sean and Aaliyah. So Sean is 61. He's from New York, and Aaliyah is 25 from Brazil. They met when Aaliyah was actually Douglas and had decided to transition into Aaliyah. Sean is now trying to figure out if he wants to even be with Aaliyah still, because he had been, you know, with a woman before and they actually had kids together. But now I guess he kind of wants a man and he wants Douglas back. But Aaliyah is trying to make it very clear, like, Douglas is gone. Douglas is not coming back. I am Aaliyah now, and that's it. That's final. But Sean, he comes over to Brazil to visit. He tells Aaliyah about those feelings and thoughts. Aaliyah is now kind of feeling a little worried that she doesn't want to go backwards trying to be Douglas again, like I said already. And also what I think kind of worries me, and probably worries a lot of viewers even watching their story play out on the screen, is when Sean said that he prefers Aaliyah was Douglas when she was still trying to figure herself out, and when she was more docile and quiet. And I was like, what person says that? You prefer when someone is more docile and quiet? And I think he also used the word scared. I think he used scared. I was like, why would you want your partner to be scared? I understand, obviously, if you have someone who's like super loud and obnoxious and combative all the time, how that is exhausting. But I don't get that vibe from Aaliyah. It's just that she has this like subtle confidence about her, and now she's just like more vocal about her feelings. And I think everyone should be that way. You don't want to just be walked all over, you know? So I'm definitely on Aaliyah's side here, because what Sean said was worrying. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, why would you want someone that doesn't speak up for themselves? Like, but Sean then decides to go ahead, proposes to Aaliyah in front of her friends and family. She accepts. Everything's going well. But I think it was like the very next day or maybe a couple days later, her friend also brings some things up while talking with Sean, and also while Aaliyah was there as well. She starts talking about his life insurance and all this other stuff. And I was like, girl, this is not the time to talk about this. They just got engaged, you know? And Sean even had to remind her, like, why would I want to talk about my death? You know what I'm saying? If something happens to me, like, obviously, yes, Aaliyah is going to be taken care of, duh, but my other family members, my children and everything, they're going to be taken care of as well. It was just very weird. Why are you asking these very much so intrusive questions right now? She could have waited a little while. The timing was terrible. But Aaliyah understood where her friend was coming from. She obviously was just trying to stand up for Aaliyah, make sure Aaliyah was going to be in good hands. And I get that. I would definitely be that type of friend, but it's all about the timing, and it's the way that you go about saying certain things. Like, you know, know? Now Sean, he understandably, he gets irritated. But where things get interesting is when Aaliyah brings up that Sean just kind of sprung up on her, that they were in an open relationship. They never actually talked about this before. I guess Sean, he said to Aaliyah a few times that he's very much so into physical intimacy, and because they weren't in the same country, they just were supposed to be in an open relationship automatically, and he thought, I guess, Aaliyah knew this. They never really had that conversation to fully establish like they were in an open relationship. I guess Sean just kind of assumed, and it really just sounds like cheating to me, to be honest. I totally would get why Aaliyah would feel a ways about that, because if you never establish like, hey, we're in an open relationship, this is what it is, these are the rules, you know, this is what you shouldn't really be doing. If you never have that chat, why wouldn't I assume that what you're doing is cheating? They're gonna definitely have to figure that out, but you could see that Aaliyah is kind of scared to bring that conversation to the forefront and really discuss that topic. And I get it, because apparently Sean had kind of shut her down before when it came to talking about it, but they're definitely gonna have to talk about it, at least in a deeper sense, if he's gonna continue to do that, even when Aaliyah comes back to the States with him and they're now, you know, married and whatnot. Let's move on to Luke and Madelein. So Luke is 30, he's from LA, and Madelein is 19 from Colombia. So you already know this is going to be a very much so explosive relationship. You're dating with a very much so big age gap, and on top of that, you're dating a teenager. She's literally on the cusp of teenager and 20s. Even in your early 20s, you're still very much so like all over the place. So they met about a year ago or so when Luke was visiting Colombia. He proposed to her, then went back to LA, and he had a pretty good job at the time, and he was pretty much paying for everything when it came to Madelein's lifestyle, from the high-rise apartment to her own business that has the word beauty misspelt in it, but we're not going to talk about that. But a little while later, Luke had ended up losing his job, and now he has to go back to Colombia to tell Madelein the bad news, because not only is he in a bad place financially, but he now can't come back to Colombia to live with Madelein just yet, because apparently that was the plan, but now he can't do that anymore because he needs to, you know, get this money going. He now can't afford to give her the lifestyle that she's been enjoying this whole time. And also Luke, he says that he decided to spend some of his last bit of money from liquidating his 401k, and he uses that on a sunglasses company without even telling Madelein. So obviously when he tells her this, she doesn't really have the best reception to it, and it's just kind of like, why would you do that without talking to me first? You know what I mean? Like, that's obvious. It was just kind of dumb to me. But if anything, like, use it on something a little bit more like sturdier when it comes to the company, you know, like a sunglasses brand. Really? Anyway, I think he had a few other things that he had invested in as well, like a clothing brand and some other things that didn't really take off and hasn't really made a profit yet. So I'm like, sir, if anything, if you're gonna do investing, you're gonna have to try and do one at a time, or maybe even two at a time at the most. You definitely don't want to do several things at once, because now you're putting yourself in a hole and you don't even know if you could actually successfully dig yourself out of said hole. Like, you're just barely above water right now because you lost your job. And it's just like, you kind of have to prepare for things like this possibly happening. And him investing in several different companies at once was just so stupid. But he just does not make good financial decisions, and I think even Madelein, of all people, kind of notices that. So Luke definitely makes me question his intelligence at certain points, but he has been making some pretty bad decisions. But now Madelein thinks that they might not be in that bad of a financial spot, and that they could still plan a wedding in Colombia, because she obviously saw him use like 11,000 on this sunglasses company and all this other stuff, and you know, he planned a vacation for them, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And now it's giving her this false sense of they're okay, you know, they're actually not in that bad of a predicament as she thought, but it is really that bad. So no wedding. But even her family members are now pushing for them to get married as soon as possible, have a wedding and all that stuff, and she just leaves him out to dry. That entire conversation, she just lets them rip into this man. She does not say anything. Like, I was like, oh wow, wow. I don't know if that was supposed to be like her way of manipulating him into trying to still squeeze in a wedding or what, but yeah, I was like, wow, sis, okay. Then they decide to have the prenup conversation. Luke brings up the whole prenup, and this girl loses it because she starts, you know, getting emotional, thinking that he doesn't trust her, but that's clearly not the reason. It's just that Luke is obviously the one with the most to lose here because he's been paying for everything for Madeleine. Clearly she doesn't really have like a job. She's just been running this salon of hers. I just think she could honestly just be using him for the money and the lifestyle, to be real. But regardless, he's still taking her out on dates. One date in particular, they went dancing, but Luke is a terrible dancer, and this random man asked to dance with Madeleine instead, and Luke just kind of volunteered her for it, which I thought was bizarre. I was like, you're not even gonna ask her if she wants to dance? Like, you're just like, go ahead. And I'm like, that's your fiance though. Like, what? Luke, he comes back into the picture. He started dancing again, but he breaks one of Madeleine's daggers. Well, I mean, nails. And I was like, girl, yeah, I think you just need more compatible nails. They look crazy. No offense. So shortly after all of this is when they decide to go on their little vacation to another location in Colombia. And they're seemingly having a good time until Luke's friend comes to give him some bad news about what Madeleine has been doing while Luke's been away. And apparently some other guy that this friend knows was at Madeleine's apartment one night for a house party, and then he just decides to fall asleep in her bed. But she just decides to sleep in the bed with this man instead of just telling him to get out. So yeah, but according to her, she didn't do anything wrong because they didn't do anything and she wasn't naked. So, but in my mind, I was like, girl, what? Like, you just let a random man sleep in your bed with you? Okay, so obviously Luke is crushed, okay? A man literally slept in the bed with his woman that he paid for and in the apartment that he also pays for. Not sure where they're going to be going from here, but Luke is upset, but you could see that Madeleine does not really care. She sees nothing wrong with what she is doing, but at the same time, I feel like if you genuinely didn't see anything wrong with what you were doing, you would have told him that that's what happened. Like, it wouldn't have to come from his friend. You know what I mean? Like, that was weird. Let's move on to the last couple, which is going to be Alex and Adriano. So Alex is 30. She's from Dallas, Texas, and Adriano is 33 from Italy. So they've been together for a few years now, it seems. Don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure what they said at the beginning. I don't remember. But they've been on and off because of Adriano's incessant need for threesomes, okay? In fact, I think he's honestly obsessed with them. The amount of times he brings them up in a conversation on average is crazy. But according to Alex, she used to be into them, and that's what she told Adriano in the beginning of their relationship. But now that she's older, it's not really for her anymore. But Adriano thinks that he can in some way kind of convince her to get back into them, but she's really not interested, but he keeps pushing regardless, which I think is absolutely wild. Apparently Adriano had even broken up with Alex at one point just so he can have a threesome with some girls he met around that time. I prefer someone do that, you know, but at the same time, don't try to get back with me. It's kind of weird because it's just like, okay, so now because you have these women, you want to break up with me, but then after the threesome, you just want to get back together. Like, that's not how that works, you know? Like, no. Alex goes over to Italy regardless, and they're enjoying their time together. And Alex starts talking about her beliefs and faith and how it's just so important to her. And she meets up with Adriano's mom, or at least they go to Adriano's mom's house, and they have dinner together. And it gets really awkward pretty fast because they start arguing about religion. And I was like, yeah, you already know that that's a conversation that's hardly ever gonna go anywhere or end well. So then it carries over into the car as they're driving home, and Alex starts running on about how if he would just become a believer, or more specifically a Christian, then he wouldn't have these urges to want to have threesomes. And I just feel like she's honestly wasting her time while they're literally out on the beach, okay? And they're having a good time. He looks over at a group of women and looks back at Alex, and it's just like, hey, maybe we should try to talk to these girls and see where things end up. And I was just like, wow, that is so brazen. I just honestly wanted to go to Alex in that moment and just shake her and tell her to please run as far away as possible from this man. Like, he is going to waste all of your good years, okay? Please leave. leave right now. Honestly, I feel like he is taking all of her, like I said already, all of her good years that she could be spending on finding the right guy, because clearly Adriano is not the guy for her. If you guys aren't on the same page, if you aren't into threesomes but he is, I think it's pretty clear that you guys aren't meant to be together. If he has to keep pushing you to do things that's out of your comfort zone and you're not interested at all in doing them, why are you with this man? Please, someone explain. The floor is open. Like, it's not making sense to me. So Adriano was also talking about going to Australia for work, and Alex was talking about going with him, but I honestly think it's not going to be a good idea. Even her family members are trying to warn her against even continuing a relationship with this man, let alone moving to Australia with him. And on top of that, you wouldn't have anybody there. Like, you're on the opposite end of the world. She's from Texas. Her family's more than likely in Texas. And now you're thinking about going, like, literally on the opposite side of the globe, and with a man that literally does not respect any boundaries that you're trying to set for yourself. And I can't really blame him, because at the same time, like, what he's interested in, but I really wish that Alex would just realize, like, this is clearly not the guy for you. Because if you have to keep putting effort into trying to change someone and try to form them into someone that you would love and want to be around all the time, then that's not the person for you. It's really not. Yeah, I think Alex needs to wake up, and hopefully her family members would successfully talk some sense into her at some point during this season. But it needs to end. It needs to end, and fast. This relationship is just not, it's not it. You're wasting your good years. That's all I gotta say. But y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.